It was raining that night. The city lights blurred through the windshield as Ethan Blake, one of the youngest CEOs in the country, sped through the quiet streets in his black Mercedes. He was returning from a tense board meeting, furious, frustrated, and tired of the world. Success had given him everything: power, wealth, and status, but not peace, not warmth, not a single person to call family. As he turned down a dimly lit alley, one he never used, something made him stop. A faint, broken voice cut through the rain. "Please, sir, a broken bar, don't go. She's too weak to beg anymore." Ethan frowned, gripping the steering wheel. Through the fogged glass, he saw a little girl, no older than 8, standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, soaked, shivering. Her big brown eyes were filled with desperation. He rolled the window down just enough. "What did you say?" he asked, his tone sharp but curious. The girl pointed behind her toward an old, rusted trunk lying beside the trash bins. "My mom ate a broken bar. She's in there. Please, help her. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. I tried to get food, but no one listens." Something in Ethan's chest tightened. He stepped out, rain soaking his expensive suit, and walked toward the trunk. Each step felt heavier than the last. When he opened it, what he saw made him freeze. Inside lay a woman, pale and unconscious, her thin frame covered by a torn blanket. Her hands trembled even in sleep. She looked lifeless except for the faint rise and fall of her chest. The girl immediately knelt beside her mother, gently shaking her arm. "Mommy, wake up, a broken bar, someone's here to help us." Ethan just stood there. The image pierced something deep inside him, memories he'd buried long ago. His mother, years ago, coughing in a cold hospital bed, begging him to eat instead of saving money for her medicine. The helplessness, the loss, the guilt. He quickly pulled off his jacket and covered the woman. "Get in the car," he said softly. "Both of you." The little girl hesitated, afraid. "You're not going to take us away, right?" Ethan knelt down to her level. "No, sweetheart, I'm taking you somewhere safe." He drove straight to a private hospital, where he ordered the staff to give the woman immediate care and no questions asked. The doctors worked through the night. The little girl, whose name was Leela, refused to leave her mother's side. Ethan stayed too, sitting quietly in the corner of the room. Hours later, the doctor came out with a sigh of relief. "She's going to be okay. Severe malnutrition and exhaustion, but she'll recover." Leela ran to Ethan and hugged his leg tightly, crying with relief. "Thank you, sir. Nobody ever stopped for us before." Ethan's throat tightened. "Where's your father?" he asked gently. Leela shook her head. "He went away when I was a baby. Mama says he couldn't handle being poor." The words hit him like a slap. He'd been raised in poverty too, in Sia, but he'd promised himself that when he made it, he'd never look back. He'd built walls of gold around his heart. And now, here he was, realizing those walls had made him colder than he ever meant to be. The next morning, Ethan returned to the hospital with food, clothes, and a small teddy bear for Leela. Her face lit up when she saw him. "You came back." She beamed. "Of course I did." He smiled faintly. "I wanted to check on you and your mom." When the woman finally woke up, she could barely speak. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, tears welling up. "We broken bar. We used to have a small home before I lost my job. Everything just fell apart. I tried to keep Leela safe." Ethan nodded. "You don't need to explain. You're safe now." Over the next few days, he made sure they had everything they needed: medical care, food, and a place to stay. But Leela wouldn't let him leave without sitting with her for a while. She'd tell him stories about her dreams, how she wanted to become a teacher, to help kids like her who had nothing. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Leela asked, "Sir, why were you sad when you saw Mama that night?" Ethan hesitated. "Because she reminded me of someone I lost, someone who loved me when I had nothing." The girl reached out her tiny hand and touched his. "Then maybe broken bar, you needed to find us so you could smile again." That one sentence broke him. He didn't reply, he just smiled. The first real smile in years. Weeks passed, and Ethan arranged a small apartment for the mother and daughter. He even hired the woman, Amelia, as a receptionist at his company, so she could rebuild her life. Leela started school nearby. Ethan personally drove her there every morning. Over time, their presence began to change him. The ruthless CEO softened. He started greeting employees, visiting charity centers, and funding shelters. He realized how blind he'd been to the suffering right outside his office walls. One evening, Leela handed him a hand-drawn picture of 3 stick figures holding hands under the sun. On top, in shaky handwriting, it said, "Me, Mommy, and Uncle Ethan." He looked at it, tears welling up. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. Months later, during his company's annual conference, Ethan stood before hundreds of employees and said, "We measure success in numbers, but real success is when your heart finds a reason to care again." He then announced the opening of the Hope Foundation, a charity dedicated to helping homeless families find shelter and jobs, named after Amelia and Leela. That night, as he left the stage, Leela ran into his arms, whispering, "You kept your promise, Uncle Ethan." He smiled down at her. "No, Lala, a broken bar, you helped me keep it." And as the lights faded, Ethan looked up at the sky, rain falling softly again, this time not as a storm, but as a reminder. Sometimes, it takes one small voice, one fragile plea, "Sir, she's too weak to be a broken bar," to awaken the humanity we thought we'd lost forever.